I'm Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. I have been a practising witch for over 25 years now. But to be honest, between you and me, I'm not a very good witch. I'm a bit of a bad witch. I'm a bit lazy. I don't really take much notice of the moon cycle, which I should. And I have a chronic pain condition, which means that sometimes I need my witchcraft to just be low to no effort. Do you know what I mean? And so today I thought I would show you some of the teeny tiny, really mundane things that I do to just bring a little bit more magic into my life. Here's some of the witchy things that I do throughout my day that don't really cost very much and really don't take a lot of effort, but make me feel a lot more in tune with my spiritual side again, make me feel like I am doing the craft like I'm supposed to, make me feel like I am still that witch. So the first thing that I do in my lazy witch routine is stir my intention to have a great day into my coffee. That's something I want to bring into my life, to always make sure that I stir it clockwise, and that gets my day off to a great start. Now today happens to be a Friday, so I am lighting my Aphrodite candles to acknowledge her, and I'm also wearing my Aphrodite perfume for confidence. Add a couple of drops of cinnamon oil into my normal mopping water and give my floors a little spiritual clean, and that puts me in the cleaning mood. So I come and sort out my Hermes altar, which all of my pebbles have been scattered everywhere and I like to stack them up for him. And so I put everything right on that altar, and then I decide to add a couple of extra bits to it as well. I've got a couple of acorns and a conker that I found on a little woodland walk the other day. I like to add little seasonal touches to my altars wherever possible. You might be able to see in the background there, I've got my terrarium Dave. My original followers will remember I used to do terrarium Tuesdays where I showed you myself building him and his progress. He is doing brilliantly well since going on the Hermes altar. He's really happy there. I haven't actually opened him for like 2 years, but he's thriving. Then I give my little Hecate statue a tap for luck before heading out, because she's the keeper of the keys and the crossroads. I also tap my lucky key for that reason. And when I come home, I always make sure that I straighten out my bells again, because they just give a nice little jingle and clear the energy whenever somebody walks in. While I'm out, I might tell the trees why I'm sad and absorb their wise and ancient calming energy that just makes me feel a lot better about myself. Of course, if I'm really mad and you're really unlucky, I'll go and tell the river what you did instead, but that's the kind of energy that we're not really focusing on today. We're here for those chill vibes. When I get home, I commune with my indoor plants as well. I give them some water that I've blessed. I actually think this was the last of last month's moon water that I'm giving to them, although sometimes they just get blessed tap water. And I make sure that I make a point of telling them all how pretty they are, because it makes them grow nicely, and why I'm doing things like tying them in around the window. I found that since I've introduced more plants into my house, the energy has completely elevated, and I especially love having them on the windowsills because I feel like it cleanses the energy when it comes in. I actually grabbed a bunch of different tension rods off of Amazon. They were super cheap, and I hung all of my dangly plants from them, and I've just created this privacy curtain of greenness that really elevates the energy in my space and makes me feel happy every time that I walk past it. I refresh up my money bowl by adding a couple of extra coins in there and maybe a few drops of frankincense. And while I'm refreshing things up, I realise that, yeah, my altars are getting kind of dusty and they've got quite a few sort of dead offerings on. So I fix that up, and then I have a little ponder about how I am going to replenish my Persephone altar, because she's going down into the underworld at this sort of time, and so I need to get that grain off of there and replace it with something else. I started working on a fresh sigil because that's really nice low energy magic, and I heard thunder. Got really excited and ran outside to put a bowl out to catch the storm water, and then I carried on doing my sigil, folded it towards me because this is one that I will again want to bring the intention of the thing towards me. And I have got a whole video on how to do sigils if you are interested in knowing about that in more detail, but this one was a super easy one. I stick them in holes in my walls, through my floorboards, in my car, all sorts of things. This one is just going to get taped onto the back of the welcome mat, the doormat at my front door, so that every time somebody steps in it, it gets recharged again, but it's nice and subtle. Nobody ever has to know that it's there. I often have sigils taped to my doormat for that reason. Then I decided to carve and light a candle because the stormy weather outside was making me just feel really nice and witchy, but I did find it quite distracting whilst I was doing my witching work. I got one of my little colourful candles in a colour that matched my intention, and I anointed it with frankincense and cinnamon oil after I had carved it with an old dead biro that I keep for that purpose. It felt really, really nice to be doing witchcraft during a storm like that, really like storm energy, and so it worked out really, really well for me, although it was, as I say, very distracting. After I had anointed the candle with oil, I then covered it in very finely granulated coffee because I wanted to speed up the spell, but you can use herbs that match your intention instead, and I quite often do. And I lit my candle up, and it was just a case of waiting for it to burn down. While I was waiting, I decided to pull a little tarot card and stare out wistfully into the rain in a very aesthetic way. I managed to pull Titchy, the card of good fortune, and that made me think that my spell was doing really, really well. And so I wrote a cash amount on a bay leaf that I could do with right now, and I decided to burn it in my spell candle. Now, bay leaves burn quite dramatically, and I was a fool who did not get tweezers or pliers or anything to hold my bay leaf with, and also didn't get my fire safe container ready right next to me to drop it into. That wasn't the wisest way of doing that, and as a result I did in fact melt my thumbnail. Luckily they are acrylics, but I am not happy now because I am incredibly no longer symmetrical. I had actually spent a really long time doing these nails. I'm kind of annoyed about it. I should probably stick to using these battery operated candles, especially for offering candles, because they're much, much safer and you can fit them into a long jar much more easily, and so they're all round just a lot better and they work just as well. So I went outside to grab my storm water and I poured it into a jar. Look at the colour of that though, it's where it's come off of my roof. I think I must have a leak in my gutter, and so yeah, very definitely not for human consumption, but you don't want to be drinking storm water anyway, so I slapped a label on that just to make sure everybody else knew that we weren't to drink that. And then I thought, hey, while I'm sitting here waiting for the candle, I'll do some other little low effort magics. And so I grabbed some eggshells, and I have cooked those in the oven for like 5 minutes before I started this, and I'm adding some salt here that is a kind of volcanic rock salt, but literally any salt will do for this recipe. Table salt, pink salt, whatever you've got. I'm just using the volcanic salt because it is already black in colour, and what I'm making is called black salt. I'm adding in the incense ash from all of the incense that I've used this month, a little bit more salt for good luck, and again any salt will do, and then we're just going to grind that down into a really, really fine powder. And because I am using a volcanic rock salt, it stinks of sulfur. I mean, it really, really smells, which is great for protective and baneful magic, which is what you use black salt for, but it isn't very pleasant when you're actually making it in your living room. Check out my stink face. By the end of it, I stuck it in this little jar. It doesn't have to be as aesthetic as this little jar. I just happen to have an aesthetic jar, and I did actually use some for a different spell that I'm not showing you, but there is a little bit left. Final thing that I do in my day is wake up my thought form, which is a very old and very complicated piece of magic that I made from scratch. But her name is Nox. She is a protective dragon who lives on the end of my staff in my upstairs hallway. And before I go to bed, I give her a little boop on the snoot to wake her up so she can guard my house. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that little tour of my mundane magical things, a little sprinkle of witchcraft into my day that makes me feel a little better about myself. If there is any particular aspect of that you wanted me to go more in depth on, let me know and I'll make a video specifically about it. Join me on Monday for my next vlog. Not quite sure what I am going to be talking about yet, or if we're going to be going somewhere, but I'm going to be here Monday morning, 6 AM UK time, talking about something. And if you can't wait until then to see me again, I am here every single morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for, or sometimes what's challenging me that day. And I will also be here on a Witchy Wednesday doing an intuitive tarot card pull for you again. So like and subscribe so I'll come up in your feed again, or don't, I'm not your mum. And either way, you have yourself a magical week.